Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap, hosted by Utah Behavior Services. I'm Eric Larson, and today I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with the Utah Parent Center at their annual Topgolf fundraising event. Today I'm sitting with Hanna, the Executive Director, and Esperanza Reyes, the Associate Director. Let's get into it a little bit and talk about your roles. You can give yourself a little bit of an introduction and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for having us and for participating in our fundraiser and sponsoring our work through this fundraiser. We appreciate it. As you mentioned, my name's Hanna. I'm the Executive Director here at the Utah Parent Center. And I am absolutely pleased to sit down and talk to you and participate in your podcast today.
Yeah, thank you.
My name is Esperanza Reyes, and I'm the Associate Director at the Utah Parent Center, and we're very pleased to be here. It's such a privilege to be featured on this very important day for our organization. As Associate Director, I do get to work very closely with the projects and programs of the center, and it's quite a rewarding experience.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys. We love doing this event. This is the second year Utah Behavior Services is able to sponsor, and it's just a gem for the families and clients that we serve and such a good partnership. Like, we really do appreciate you guys coming out here and then also being on the podcast. Like, it's not easy. So thank you. Let's kind of talk about today's event, the Topgolf fundraiser event for Utah Parent Center. When did it start, and how has it impacted the families in the communities you serve?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can start with this, Esperanza. And as always, if I miss something, please jump in. So this is our 8th annual Topgolf fundraiser. And so we started in 2017. And this is really our flagship fundraiser at the Parent Center. And really, as is the case with many nonprofits, the Parent Center started out with just a little small sort of unobligated dollar donation and kind of started from there with our original development director who got us kicked off here with our event at Topgolf. And every year it's just grown and it's been more and more successful. And so I think, for us, it has really been our flagship fundraiser, and it's just a good time for people. It's not really, it's not black tie or stuffy, so people don't have to do a lot of prep to come, but we get a lot of amazing support from our community partners that we appreciate a bunch.
Back in 2017, really our board of directors had the foresight to invest on the development area of the center. Having additional funds is key to being able to deliver the level, the quality of services that we want to see families in Utah enjoy. And it is not always possible with the funding sources that the center procures through grants and other projects in support of families. So expanding our reach through events like Topgolf has been immensely beneficial for the center. And over time, more and more individuals become aware of this event. And we have felt strong support of individuals out there in the community when it comes to Topgolf.
Yeah, that's awesome. In the 8 years you've been doing this, what are the key highlights or events that you just get excited for this particular day?
I love to see our ambassadors that welcome individuals and kind of get to show some of the meaning that the work of the center has had for them individually as self-advocates themselves. And I think the auction is always a fun part of the event.
I agree with Esperanza. The ambassadors are super fun. It's generally people that we've served in the community that come and sort of talk with people about the work we do. And then the other thing is of course, getting to chat with and touch base and see face to face some of the people who support the Parent Center from afar that we don't always get to. Esperanza and I and our other staff, we don't always get to see them face to face, but we have some pretty great support in the community from some of the agencies that we work with, and a lot of that stuff happens behind the scenes. So being able to see people face to face and connecting with them is also a highlight for sure. How
has this event evolved over the last 8 years?
Yeah, I think that a couple of different things. I think we've grown a bit. We started with, a smaller group of people, and we've been able to grow the event every year. And then I think just expanding to the broader community and getting the word out about who the Parent Center is and what it is that we do. We're kind of a nonprofit and sometimes this is probably the case with a lot of nonprofits and other service industry people, is that, people don't find you until they need you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we've definitely been able to get our word out there with more companies and organizations that support our work, which has been really critical, like Esperanza mentioned a bit earlier, and expanding our services.
Awesome. As far as, can you go into a little bit on how fundraising happens and where the funds go, just for the listeners that are maybe curious as to, oh, hey, like you had mentioned, you don't really know about a service until you need it. So how does that kind of work from the Utah Parent Centers?
Yeah.
There's a variety of examples when it comes to what we might use these kind of funds for. There have been projects of the center that have been put into place really with this funding. For example, we have a fantastic website up called Autism Across the Lifespan, and we've used some additional funds that the center has been able to procure through development and fundraising to be able to bring that to completion and have that be a resource for the community. That's one example. There are other projects and programs that are examples, but I'll let Joey share.
I think to capitalize on what Esperanza is saying, Eric, one of the things that we've been really successful at and is starting with some fundraised dollars because we have a great idea and for a program or a project. And where those ideas come from are kind of a myriad of places. But, the Parent Center, almost all of our staff are parents as well. And so we're really working from a peer-based paradigm. And so we kind of know what the community needs because we are the community. So there's that. And then, of course, we do a broader community assessment of our constituents that we serve to see, what are some of the things that you want to see. And so, as Esperanza mentioned, we were able to sort of seed projects. And then we've been really successful with seeding a project with some of our fundraised dollars and then getting ongoing sustainable funding from some of our partners because we've been able to really show good results. For instance, we have a project that we call the Siblings Project. So as you can imagine, people who are siblings of kids with disabilities or individuals with special healthcare needs or whatever the case may be, there's some particular dynamics in those families. And so we have a really cool project that we just serve just those siblings. And it is a project that serves across the lifespan. So younger siblings, and that has, some playgroup components and other social sort of things all the way up through adults who are slated to become caregivers. So it's stuff like that we're able to put the money. So we really put all of our fundraised dollars right back into programming. It has helped a tiny bit with our infrastructure. We have pretty slim federal grants. We're asked to do a lot with a little bit of money. So it's helped with some infrastructure things. For instance, during COVID, we really needed to upgrade some of our tech stuff so that we could offer our services remotely. So it's helped with that. But by and large, our money goes directly right back into services.
That's so cool. I really like that project too. I'm a father of 4, and I could only imagine if I had something going on with one child, how much attention that would require, but then not to neglect or forget to give attention to the other kids is important. But the fact that there's services or funds out there to help, that's amazing. That really does help strengthen the family. That really does help bring, a holistic approach to those families so that they're being supported with the tools that they need.
The sibling project itself, not only does it target the parent-child relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but also just general environments and social stigma and whatever the sibling might be feeling. As Joey mentioned, it does go across the lifespan. So it keeps in mind that siblings might become that caregiver for the individual with a disability, and they may not have the tools as they have not been in that parental role.
Yeah.
So to learn and understand what their responsibilities might be and how to best go about navigating a system that might help their sibling is also an important part of this project.
Yeah. And another component, I mentioned most of us are parents, but then the other few are siblings that work at the Parent Center. And so the thing that we're noticing is that, siblings of people with disabilities, special healthcare needs are absolutely amazing advocates. Completely different perspective than the parents, but offer so much when it comes to pushing the bar forward, moving the finish line forward for inclusion for people with disabilities, And so we're delighted. We feel like we're kind of incubating a bunch of future advocates in that project as well.
That's awesome. You're laying the foundation for, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Legacy. Because it's like taking care of what you can today, but you're planting the seeds for tomorrow for the next generation. So it's like keep taking care of each other. That's awesome. So that's awesome. The biggest thing is where the funds go helps support projects like the sibling project. With that too, it also helps. I just pulled some quick facts off your website real quick. Those funds also help you guys from last year. Have been able to provide over 9,500 services, over 260 workshops, 627 supported parents in school and other meetings, and then over 5,850 attended trainings and workshops. Those are for parents and siblings and just everybody.
The vast majority of our services will touch the lives of families. We do also touch the lives of professionals that serve those families. So a smaller percentage for sure. It's usually about 10 to 20% of professionals that will benefit from our services, but they're also doing the learning and the outreach in the hopes of supporting the individual with a disability or special health care need.
And those numbers probably don't even include all the digital and online resources that you guys have, as well as probably the one-off conversations you've had with other professionals and paraprofessionals.
That is accurate. In fact, for our website, we usually have over 500,000 views annually, which really does put a lot of pressure on the Parent Center to make sure that our resources are relevant and as helpful as they can be. As we know, families access information in different ways, and especially the younger generations are seeking that information virtually more and more.
So maybe, I guess, what would you say to other organizations that you would love to have a partnership with? What would you want to tell them as far as maybe how could they offer their resources or their information onto your site? Is that something that...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Always sharing with the Parent Center new resources is important because we put together resource lists. We provide options to families if they're looking for specific types of services. Our consultants are the ones that will say, here's everything that we know that's available. And some of that information may or may not necessarily make it onto the website. It'll just depend on the quality and other factors. Nevertheless, any information that the Parent Center can receive from partners, we will utilize it to the best of our ability.
Okay. If you could describe your perfect clients or families that you serve, what would they look like? Who are we talking to?
Honestly, it's the people that want to be the recipients of the support, right? We have services available. There isn't a particular descriptor for the family, but it's just an individual, and it can even be an individual with disabilities themselves that is looking for some sort of support across their life, across different areas, whether it be education, employment, transportation, daily life, social relationships. We seek to support in every way.
What can somebody expect when they do reach out for services or support?
Yeah, it's a great question, Eric. And I wanted to tag on to what Esperanza said and say, a lot of the people that give us a call, they're not calling us on their best day, right? They're calling us because they've reached out to someone and someone said, hey, call the Parent Center. But I would say one thing I would love to encourage families is to check out our website, check out our resources when you're not in that state, because there's so much valuable information. The one thing that comes to mind is our transition resources. If you have a kiddo that has a disability that's between the ages of, 13, 14, and, as early as you can, start looking at that transition planning. Start looking at, the materials that we have available when you're not in crisis. So that I'd love to tag that onto that. And then I'm sorry, what was your? I started talking. I went off the rails.
Oh no, you're good. What can somebody that is looking for resources expect when they do reach out?
So we have quite a few ways. Just like everyone, different ways that you can reach out to the Parent Center. But one thing that I'm proud of, and I hope Esperanza will say the same, is that when you call the Parent Center, you're going to talk to someone. You're going to get a warm human being on the phone.
Not AI.
Not AI. You're not getting AI. You're not going to get put on. You may get put on a call list that someone calls you back. But we really try to get back in touch with someone within 24 hours. Sometimes it's a little bit longer depending on how busy we are. Right at the center, we take a lot of calls. But you're going to get a person who's a live human being who has likely experienced something similar to what you're going through. And if not, has very close colleague that they can connect you with, and someone who is connected with all of the most up-to-date current resources available. So yeah, somebody, if you give us a phone call, we're gonna call you back. You're gonna get a person.
You can expect an empathetic ear that really understands where you've been, and someone that is desirous to provide that support, because truly everyone that is connected with the Parent Center and is at the Parent Center are there because they feel the desire to serve in families in this fashion.
An empathetic operator. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, let's kind of back up 8 years ago. Utah Parent Center was formed 8 years ago, or was it sooner? This event's just been going for 8 years.
Yes, the Utah Parent Center is a private nonprofit organization that's been around for, since 1983. So 41 years?
Yeah.
Yes, we celebrated 40 years recently.
Yeah.
So we've been around in the state for a long, long time.
So really the Parent Center is kind of in our infancy in terms of fundraising. We're, I don't know, I'd say we're crawling at this point. Maybe we're starting to walk, toddle around a little bit. So in the grand scheme of, how old the Parent Center is, we're pretty new to fundraising. So we're still kind of learning and getting our feet under us, but we're getting better and better.
So parent centers are a phenomena that happens throughout the nation and the U.S. territory. So we're not necessarily alone in the kind of work we do. We are the ones that do it for the state of Utah, which is fantastic. That being said, there was something you said, Joey, and I wanted to comment on it.
It was probably brilliant. Whatever it was brilliant. We'll just say that it was brilliant. Can we agree?
Cut that part. So, yes. So we're not necessarily doing this work in isolation, but it is unique for parent centers to be able to have development, to have fundraising. We are, I think, in a great position now that we continue to sort of invest energy and support, and so does our board and our leadership when it comes to these efforts to be able to provide more than what is typical for a parent center to provide.
That's fantastic. How long have each of you been involved with Utah Parent Center?
I'm going to let you go first because you just had an anniversary, right?
Yeah. So earlier this week, this was my 11th year at the Utah Parent Center.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I started there when my oldest son, who's now 16 years old on the spectrum, was 5 years old. So it's been a work of heart for me at the Utah Parent Center, but that's how long I've been associated with it.
Is that how you got involved as well?
So I am a parent. I'm also a sibling.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an opportunity when I was doing my graduate degree to do service projects.
Mm-hmm.
And the Utah Parent Center, once I learned about it, that it served families of individuals with disabilities, I just had to reach out and say, this is where I want to do my service. And I just got hooked on the work of supporting families. It wasn't even something that I had considered while I was going through my career. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Just kind of like you knew.
Serendipitous.
You got there and you're like, I'm staying. I'm not leaving.
That has been true.
I'm not going to let her leave.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I got my hopes in her.
Sorry.
I'm going to give her a terrible reference if she tries to go anywhere else. She's awful. Yeah, so I've been here I'm in my 5th year. And like Esperanza, and again, like the majority of our staff, I came to the Parent Center because my son is a person on the spectrum. He just graduated from high school and he's 18 years old. And my first introduction to the Parent Center was actually, I reached out to the Parent Center for help. I was in a kind of a desperate situation with our son while he was in kindergarten. We were really having a tough time with the school, and I reached out to our consultant, and she came, and she was exactly what Esperanza said, that empathetic listening ear. She helped walk us through a process that we really didn't understand and felt super overwhelmed by, and she really provided the support we need. Just a cheesy kind of anecdotal story about that is we were sitting in the principal's office of the school doing an IEP meeting and with my son, and really just feeling quite overwhelmed by the number of people that were there from the school representing the school. And I remember sitting there, and our advocate, our parent consultant, was with us, and I was just looking at this picture on the wall that the principal had of Mount Everest. And he had attempted a summit or whatever of Mount Everest, and it was this big, beautiful picture. And I was just kind of like, it was like this metaphor for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm freaking climbing Mount Everest with all these systems and how difficult this is. And I just want my son to have access to school and, it was really overwhelming for me. And I said it in jest to the parent consultant, and she was like, yeah, you're right. And she's like, but I'm here. I'm going to help you. I'm your PACA or whatever, like it's going to be okay. And that was so, that was amazing for me. So I was working in disability services through a state agency. And when the position came open, I thought, what, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring here. I have, experience in leadership in nonprofits, and so yeah, here we are. Now it's Esperanza and I. We're the dream team.
And you said your parent rep was Jess?
No, my parent rep was Amy Wyrick. She no longer works with us. She
shout out to Amy.
Yeah, Amy worked in the Salt Lake district for a long time, and she was phenomenal. And we're sad that she moved on. But her husband got a promotion. I think he's running a research center somewhere in Ohio. I can't remember the state. Sorry, Amy, if you listen to this. Anyway, lovely family. And they quite a legacy here in Utah for sure.
Yeah. As far as, so aside from kind of why you got into Utah Parent Center or how you got into it, what has since been your most memorable success or impact on a family or the individuals or just the community you've served? What comes to mind?
I am happy to share because I've experienced it multiple times, and it really is changing the trajectory for someone who has been experiencing really high difficulties, where because of the service that either I provided directly or somebody at the center has provided, we were able to see the change and the shift and the life really turn in a positive direction. And as you see it through time, that is just priceless. We really do change lives and touch people's lives in a way that is incomparable.
Well, hopefully we can bring some light to it, because it doesn't get shared very much anymore these days, especially with social media and the news. It's always doom and gloom. So this is something a lot better. Let's kind of shift gears into a Q&A. Maybe for some of our listeners that would have, what do typical situations look like when you're working with a new family? Like, is there a typical situation, or it's all kind of just across the spectrum?
There's a variety of general situations that we might see. Perhaps somebody just received a new diagnosis. I would say that's a very typical call that we might get at the center, and they're just starting out trying to figure out, where do I go next? Who do I speak with? What do we do? That is very common. Another common area might be help. My child is really struggling at school. There are things playing out that the parent feels upset about or upset by, and our staff can help them understand sort of their rights and their protections and how to go ahead and navigate that situation successfully with school professionals. We might get a family saying, oh, I'm aware of these resources, but I have no idea how to apply for them. And I don't know what would qualify our family to even be able to receive these services. And so our staff may be able to reach out to them and explain what are the requirements and how do you fill this out, and support them in that process. Families might think, oh my goodness, we are reaching our 18th year. Our child is about to become an adult, and we don't know what to do or where to go. And we hear everything is going to change. And so our staff might step in and support with that kind of information. So there's a variety of scenarios that are typical scenarios we hear at the Parent Center. And just like Joey shared earlier on, it is nice when families are able to connect with our services when they're not necessarily feeling the heat and the pressure of that situation, because there is so much to be learned and understood that will better help them along their process.
How do you train your staff to be adaptable to those family dynamics?
That is a fantastic question.
With a lot of...
The reality is that our staff are exposed to such a variety of needs. We do have areas of expertise at the center, so that kind of helps us tailor some of what we're doing. But they are fantastic researchers and problem solvers almost, because we do get asked questions that are different day in and day out. And so listening to what the family is sharing, hearing those specific variables and details then the parent consultant is able to connect with whatever is needed for the family. And not to say that everything has an answer or that everything is easily resolved. Far from it. But it is something that the person has to navigate successfully in order to thrive at a place like the Parent Center, because people are so unique in their needs.
When would you want to I mean, I really like how initially you said people typically don't look for services until they need them. Are there some indicators of when parents maybe are feeling overwhelmed? I mean, that's probably an indicator itself of when they should reach out. I mean, it's always good just to ask, but is there a particular time that it's better to ask for help or services?
I think as long as as early as the problem arises is the best time to do it. Yeah. The longer you let something go, the trickier it is to untangle something that might need to be untangled, or to help the person kind of find the right path to go along. So as soon as they feel the question, as soon as they feel the worry, we do tell families, you have to trust your gut. Mm-hmm. When you trust your gut, you will take the steps you need to take in order to support your child. And that has proven true time and time again.
Yeah, I would agree with Esperanza. When if you're feeling worried or scared or nervous or confused or unsure about something, give us a call. It is very, very likely that we have someone on staff who has experienced a similar thing as you, who has a kid with a similar diagnosis as you, who has, is a person with a similar, something like that. But also we can connect you to the right people. And then again, I'll just echo, hit up our website, hit up our social media, hit up our YouTube, and see if there's, sort of sift through the information. If you're scrolling anyway, if you're on your phone anyway, and you're a parent, and especially, if you're a parent of a younger kid, and this is just for me. I heard this once from a professional, but it really rung true for me with my son, was that we should be thinking 2 years ahead for our kids, sometimes 3. So what does life look like for my kiddo, who's 5? What does life look like for him when he's 8? And what do I need to know and be prepared for? I don't say that to cause more anxiety or, make people think, oh, I'm behind the 8 ball if I'm not planning 3 years ahead. But it really has been something that has helped me have things in place before they kind of arose, and sort of anticipate them. But, the other thing is that families can just call us and say, I don't necessarily have a crisis right now. I have a relatively new diagnosis. My kiddo is 6 months old or 6 weeks old and has Down syndrome. And I'd love to know, what resources should I get connected to early, or even, down the road. I have a family member who's about to age out of high school, and I don't know what kind of services are available or what kinds of things are available for him or her. So, definitely call us if you're in crisis, but also even if you're not.
Yeah, there is a myth, unfortunately, that families tend to believe when they're not connected with other families, and that is that they're alone in this. They are alone. They have to figure it out alone. Others don't experience what they do. The reality is that there are many families in the state that are going through the same things. And there's a lot of not just strength, but emotional support in those numbers and in finding each other.
I really liked how you said it's hard. It's so hard to look ahead. It's like you're so sucked into the now and the worry, and not to increase anxiety. But I really like how you said, look 2, 3, even 5 years ahead where you want to be, because I feel like if you can set those goals, at least have resources to know where you're going, it makes your everyday that much easier. At least if the days are hard, you can still take the steps knowing you're heading in the right direction. I really like that. That's like,
thank you.
That's
it
so
really,
powerful.
It really worked, for me in a lot of ways. Just looking forward, like anticipating, okay, is my kid going to want to drive? He may. Can he possibly? What do we need to do? What could we be doing at age 14 to prepare him for that? What kinds of things, what experiences are there? There's driving simulations, things like that. What kinds of things can you be looking at?
And it's a great learning opportunity for you and your child, because then you teach not only, hey, we're going to set a goal and try to hit it, but you're going to teach them the flexibility, because life doesn't always go the way we want it to.
Sure doesn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You asked earlier if there was something that really stood out in terms of the joys of the Parent Center and some of the successes. And for me personally, just in my own life as a parent, not really limiting in my own mind expectations for my own son. If my younger self, who had the 5-year-old when I started at the Parent Center, could talk to myself now, I would not believe the gains and the strides that we've made over the years, thanks to being informed and thanks to having other fellow peer parents that have listened to me and helped me think through some of the things that I've had to think through for my own child. So for other families out there, really listening to the wisdom of other parents that have been through it is invaluable.
Well, I just want to thank you both so much for coming out here today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your whys, and really everything about Utah Parent Center and just the great organization you guys are and the good work you do. With the event today, is there anything you'd like to tell first-time attendees or eighth-time attendees that are coming today? Is there anything you want to tell them?
You don't have to be a golfer to love this. It is a fantastic, fun social event.
Oh, yeah. I would. Yeah. My golf skills. I mean, watch out, everybody. If I come into your bay, just know you're about to lose your shirt in golf. No, not absolutely not. I'm terrible, but it is still fun. You know, if it's your first time or you're thinking about maybe you do get our newsletters and you get our communication about it, please come support the Parent Center. We promise we're putting every dollar that we make right back into services. And thank you also for your support of our event and just for the important work that you do in the community. We know a lot of families that utilize your services, and you guys are awesome as well. And thank you for doing this podcast and making it a resource as well. These types of resources are so useful.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And, I mean, for years to come, it'll be posted. So
awesome.
We want to thank our listeners for tuning in to Bridging the Gap. For more information about the Utah Parent Center, please visit utahparentcenter.org. For more about who we are and what we do, check us out on socials at Utah Behavior Services or go to utahbehaviorservices.com.